Hi guys, we are back again, personal psychology, and today we are talking about the use of the relevance of psychological instruments or psychological test measures or psychological instruments in personnel selection and placement. As we know, psychological instrument or psychological test refers to a standardized measure use of psychological instrument to obtain a standardized measure of a particular behavior or an aspect of a behavior. And according to Anastasia 1988, it is a standardized instrument that lists the list that it lists or could be used to obtain a particular behavior and interpret it. Yes, it's able to elicit a sample of behavior and objectively score it. That is analysis 1988. The psychological instrument or an instrument that is able to pick up an attribute of a behavior and objectively interpret it. Depending on the test, testing provides in personnel selection the psychologist information regarding the abilities, interests, personality characteristics of the prospective applicant in a particular organization, right? As we know, that organizations are able to obtain information in several areas or through many areas like interview, like other screening tests and everything, right? Psychological instruments also appear to be more objective and able to overcome this problem of bias and favoritism and everything. The need for this test is because, as we know, that people have different attributes. So we know that if you are able to tap into this description of people's attributes and characteristics, knowing that these psychological instruments or psychological tests are not in any way related to the job, right? The information gotten, they are not directly related to any job description or any job analysis. You don't need job analysis to do this, so you will not be focusing on anything, but your focus is to get that aspect of behavior. What is this description of this person and everything? So more importantly is the fact that psychological tests constitute important part of many selection programs based on the assumptions that people are different, and tapping into those things like in differences in performance, their abilities and attitudes, we are able to design a job that is fitting to those characteristics of individuals, where those abilities could be employed, where those abilities can be appreciated. So without having an appropriate test instrument, you may not be able to achieve this. You may not be able to achieve it because you are not able to get those description of persons which will now be used in the aspect of getting a job or fitting the person to that job, where the characteristics of the person or their abilities are needed. And it's important to also point out that the psychological instruments are not only beneficial during hiring situation, it's also used in all level, yes, of the organizational process, even when there is vacancy to fill, even when there are promotions to make, to understand their situations, right? So in summary, we understand that psychological instruments or tests are relevant in personnel selection because they improve selection processes by finding the right person for the job. This in turn leads to a high job satisfaction, and importantly, it reduces turnover, right? Turnover has to do with the frequency at which people leave the job. You can't hire somebody before 3 weeks, the person has gone. Before 1 month, before 1 year, the person has gone. You will start again looking for another person. That will be very on the negative side for the organization, right? So as we say, turnover could be maybe the person leaving, or maybe by willingly leaving, or maybe firing the person willingly. Perhaps the person doesn't want the job anymore, or the person was not really fit for the job and he decided to go, or you find out the person is not fit because of inadequate testing and everything, and you fire the person. That will be detrimental for the cost, or the cost effective. It's not good for the organization, right? So when we compare these tests, psychological tests, to other types like interview and other type of screening, you understand that psychological instruments or test procedure is so immune or better in terms of these test bias and all of those things, due to the interpretation. And in interview we know that there is subjective interpretation, but these instruments, psychological instruments, could give you an unbiased test outcomes without having the opinion of the experts involved to interfere in the outcome, right? So types of psychological instruments we have, ones like mental ability test, like when we test their IQ, maybe verbal level or the performance level, right? We have the interest inventories. Here we tap into their passions and their interests and hobbies, the personality types. There, where we look at projective tests, even the MMPI can also do that, the objective tests. Then we have the aptitude tests, the instrument that are able to tell us predictive validity, like predict their future ability or capability to undergo several trainings or undergo several tasks in the organization. Then we have physical tests. We have now the limitations of psychological tests. However, how objective and so strong and powerful it has been, or relevant, we know that limitations, and they include in the sense that, because people are really giving critics, the major criticism about psychological instruments is about its reliability and validity, right? However, that psychological instruments have been able to an extent, beat those situations. We also know that some limitations still exist, which includes problem of uncritical use of tests in personnel selection. Uncritical use of tests in personnel selection. This means that you just find, hey, okay, this person is high in intelligence, this person's interest fit this and this. Come on, these are not directly related to the job, and oftentimes they just, so far this instrument has said this, and this person is this and this and that, not minding some fake responses and everything. They will just use it, and in the end the person might not be the best man for the job. Then there is also an unfair rejection of applicants. Because of their test outcomes, you may unfairly reject a very suitable client for a particular job. There are also faking test responses. These are the limitations. Then we have conformity, people trying to conform because they know what the question is all about or what it's looking at in that respect. So this is the relevance of psychological instruments or psychological tests, please, in personnel selection and placement. Thank you, and see you in the next video.